might not be new to some of us, but it's good for us to always recollect and to always, learn from other people's example and adapt this even to our own life at whatever stage we are, even in our life journey. So I want to hand over now to Mr. Ademola Adebise to give us brief insight. We can't cover the whole book in 25 minutes. Brief insight into what covered in the book. Thank you. And once again, I say congratulations.
Thank you very much, madam. I would like to thank the founders of Laterna, Pastor Remy and Pastor Yinka Morgan, for this opportunity to shed some light on my memoir, The Transformational Leader, the journey of a tech bro turned bank's CEO. I also want to thank everyone that is honored our invitation today. I have a number of my very good friends in the audience. I want to thank you for coming to honor us today. Talking about this is not, the book is not an autobiography. The book is basically a memoir, and to share my experience over the 33 years of banking experience, basically to inspire young and aspiring leaders. What we see today is that a lot of youths, number of them really don't have a clear direction as to what to do, and even where they have, they're very, in terms of the attention span is very, very short. So this is basically to inspire young and aspiring leaders. It's also to encourage techies who believe that they cannot aspire to the top in any industry. As a student, Unilag, computer science, I think I'm coming out, the impression we all have is that all you can do is to try to become head of technology, and that is the end of it. So the aspect of breaking glass ceilings and all that is not there. So basically, this is also to share my experience, to encourage them that being a techie does not limit you in anything you want to really do. And of course, the big one really is in 2009, I joined Wema Bank. I joined the team with Mr. Shegun Olopetui, and was a lot of work transforming Wema Bank. This book also tries to chronicle some of the transformation work that we did that we had at Wema Bank, and more importantly, trying to tell the story of ALAT, Nigeria's first fully digital bank, launched by the Wema Bank in 2017. Again, this book would also share importance of family, nurturing relationships, importance of mentors. All of us cannot, nobody is an island to himself. We all learn, and we all learn from those who have come before us. So it's important that we have mentors to guide us. And above all, this book is basically to show the grace of God in my life. The book is actually about 182 pages. It's very easy to read. Made it in such a way that an easy to read book. It's about 9 chapters, and each of the chapter talks about some key life lessons. The first 3 chapters basically talks about chasing excellence. It's important in anything that we find ourselves doing. It's important that we put in our very, very. So basically, chasing excellence, and then the need in chasing excellence. You must be able to embrace change. You must be flexible. You must be able to adapt. Those are the things that I dealt with in the first 3 chapters. The next 3 chapters dealt with Wema Bank, basically the transformation work at Wema Bank, the story of ALAT, and of course, navigating or running the bank in times of turbulence. A very good example was when we got into Wema Bank, the examples I gave in there. and also running the bank the period of COVID. So these were some of the experiences I shared there. Then the last three pages, chapters, talks about uh, bonds, family, maintaining work-life balance, nurturing relationships, importance of mentors, and then ability to also reflect, taking a time out to reflect, because they always say that we live our life forward, but we reflect backward to know exactly, trying to connect all the dots. I think those are the things I did in the last three chapters of the book. So really, it's and the forward for the book was written by Mr. Ademola Adebise, the founding CEO of Chartered Bank. He's going to be 80 years in January, and he's in good spirits, doing very well. So I had the privilege of having him do the forward. The next slide. Okay. So basically, looking at the book, I pulled out about 8 different key life lessons, which we're going to talk to very briefly in the next few minutes. Chasing excellence wholeheartedly, actively seeking out mentors, taking calculated risk, innovating. We all have to innovate, otherwise we get behind or we get knocked out. Again, it's also important as we chase excellence. It's also important that we try to adopt a growth mindset. We want to really make any progress. We must have that mindset. Resilience is very key. Like the very turbulent VUCA economy that we are currently in, very important that we're very resilient. Again, striving for a balanced life. It's not all about work. There's family, there's relationships that we need to maintain. It's important that we exercise regularly and all that. So striving for a balanced life is very important. And above all, it's staying close to God, because in everything that the guidance of Father is very, very important. So I think those are the key life lessons. I'll just take next slide. I'll just go through the slides very briefly, talking through them. What I've done is basically to animation. I didn't want to bore you with a lot of, but I'll just talk through the. They say the foundation of excellence was formed during my formative years in school, attending Surrey Baptist Primary School, moving on to Baptist Academy, and then graduating from University of Lagos. Right from primary school, I found that light bulb moment in primary 4 when suddenly I just realized that I was studying class. I didn't know, but it was just, of course, a lot of work had gone into it, and it felt quite good getting a prize. Teachers were used to first, second, third, getting prizes for them. All of a sudden, there was this outlier that came out, and 2 of them became third. So they had to go look for prizes, another prize for me and all that. So it was, and the feedback from everybody around was quite, and I felt good. And I said, this is what I want to do. I want to continue to do, be like them. All that, all through my secondary school life, moving from Baptist, to a Baptist, being a Baptist school, I naturally flowed into Baptist Academy. And of course, all through that. Now, this memoir is important that it's not about trying to play up one's success or trumpet one's successes. It's really about trying to explain my journey so that it can inspire. So, of course, all through, maths was one of my best subjects, and that started off from my father, right from primary school, teaching us maths, breaking it down, and all that. And of course, he wanted me to go into Bobby College, and I wanted Baptist Academy because, of course, I guess maybe we had been brainwashed at Surrey Baptist Primary School, so I felt Baptist Academy was and I don't have any regrets for it. So it's always was always tug of war in the house, especially when we had football. The two schools were great football schools. Footballing school. So that was it. One other great thing at Baptist Academy was the fact I represented the school. We won the best prize, Chikobi mathematics competition amongst secondary schools in Lagos. And coincidentally, Gobi College was in finals and we beat them. So really, what I'm trying to pull out from all this is the fact that I think it's important that we put in the best in everything that we do, and not try to drop the ball. Of course, flowing into Unilag and graduating as the best student in the department. So chasing excellence is very, very important. But also quite important, next slide, is the fact that we need to actively engage mentors at different stages of our life. We'll need people to guide us. And I've had quite a number of people in my life that have become quite prominent people, really, coincidentally, that have guided me all through my career. Of course, starting with my father, who was my maths teacher and became my mentor. He taught me the sciences and all that. So he made it very, very easy for me, and I really loved it. And of course, my lecturer at the University of Lagos, Professor Shofolua, he became the VC. When we finished, I finished with a few points below first class, and that really was a very, very big setback for me, very devastating. But he called me and said, "Hey, you are a first class material. I think you should go into the world, go and put in your best and show them the first class material." We were in touch all through. Sounded such a wonderful human being, very loved amongst the students. We were in touch all through. Even when he became VC, a week before he passed on, we were still together at the staff center, the staff club at Unilag, and I didn't. One thing that pained me was the fact that I didn't have the opportunity to tell him that in 1987, this is what he told me, and this has happened when I became the MD of Wema Bank. He passed on about a year or two before I became the MD of Wema Bank. So, a wonderful human being. And Mr. Lagundoe picked me up from Chartered Bank all through to National Bank. He was so interested in me. Maybe because of my tech background, he was also tech inclined. So he wanted, he will always say then that, he had a teacher as well who was our principal at Baptist Academy, Reverend Adebise, and all that. So who taught him at Government College, Ibadan. So he also was very instrumental in moving me from through all departments. My career was very unique in the sense that I had the opportunity of going through every aspect of banking, from risk management to operations to IT to finance. And he was the one who was instrumental to all this, And of course, I moved on to National Bank. At National Bank, he was my MD as well until he retired, and all that. So, of course, it was such a wonderful human being. Mrs. Omobola Johnson also assisted me get into Accenture. I left banking. Again, this is one aspect. It's very uncommon to see people go from banking to consulting, then back to banking and all that. What you normally see is people leave school, you start off from consulting, and then you move into the industry. But I was the other way around. And I would say it was divinely planned because when I got into Accenture, I had to unlearn a number of the things that we learned in banking and then to relearn again properly. And that actually prepared me for the transformation job that we had at Wema Bank, and Mrs. Johnson was very, very instrumental, was the pillar of my success in Accenture. Accenture was a very beautiful place to work. If you are not lazy, you will always succeed, because you had a lot of smart, intelligent people around you that it's very difficult for you to fail. Of course, the other person here is Mr. Shegun Loketui, was my MD at Wema Bank. We are friends all the way from Chartered. He invited me to the Wema project, and of course, when he invited me, I didn't have any qualms in accepting the offer because I know him. I could place my life on him that look, he will, so, and it was today I never had any regrets in that decision. And he's also been mentoring me in the other. So really, it's mentoring is very, very key. And I always advise young people to ensure we are not an island unto ourselves. The other bit also has to do the next slide. Taking calculated risks. The number of times people see me as maybe I see myself as an introvert, even though people see me as somebody who wants to who like taking challenges. There was the time of well, we call it Jackpot now, but in those days, Andrew checking out. Yes, Andrew don't check out was the slogan at that time. I had the opportunity of taking up an IT job in Qatar, but I again talking about listening to elders and people who have gone before you. I had somebody like Mr. Tunde Fowler, who became the FIRS chairman, who advised me against moving to Qatar, that he had traveled all over the world, he has seen everything and he has come back. So I would rather say, hey, stay back. And I heeded his advice. And today I have no regrets because I will probably not have been able to aspire to be the MD of a bank. Again, moving into risk management, I told you how I moved from all. What you see is that people end up in one box and they end their banking career in that box. But what I did was to actually move around. I moved into risk management, moved business development, and it's been a lot of fun. But IT was my day. I was always going in and out of IT. So and that was it. Again, moving into Accenture, one would expect at a general manager level, I crossed over into consulting. One would say, what would you go and do there and all that? I also questioned that question. I questioned myself, but at that time, I moved in as a subject matter expert. But I realized that I had to unlearn all the things I learned and I had to relearn. And then, of course, joining Wema Bank also was another thing that was people found it very strange moving from Accenture, a global firm, into a moribund bank at that time. So it was quite so. Again, you have to take calculated risk. Again, some of all these moves I did were with the help of my mentors. I moved with Mr. Lagundoe. I moved with Mr. Shegun Loketui. It was because I believed in them, because they guided me. That worked out very well. Thank you very much. So the next one is let's go on to innovate. Innovation, they say it's very, very important. Clayton Christensen says breaking an old business model is always going to require leaders to follow their instinct. At Wema Bank, when we launched ALAT, and I'm very glad that I have then my chairman, who's in the audience right now, Mr. Pastor, I don't know what to even address him as, Ambassador, Diashikun, is in the audience. We had a board, very cohesive board, and we had just raised capital twice. We could then say as we're now a bank. This was around the 2014, 29. When we got into Wema, it was negative capital of 45 billion. And to be a bank, you needed 25 billion. So that means you needed 71 billion to inject into the bank. We went through a number of ways, raising capital, raising funds from AMCON, selling our loans, bad loans to AMCON, had 2 rounds of capital raise, and all that. And then by 2015, 2014, we could call ourselves a proper bank, and of course, while all that was going on, We're dealing with all the issues around people, process, technology, and by that period, the board was now asking, what next? You guys, yes, you're now a bank. What next? You're still a tiny bank. We want to be a more relevant bank in the industry. We then started looking for ways to at least, deal with the question from the board. And we looked at ourselves. We're a retail bank. How do we shake off? I mean, the impression there was we're old generation bank, grandfather bank, and all that. How do we shake off that toga? We went into a lot of surveys and all that. It came out very clearly that the way to do this was to appeal to the young ones. Once the young ones are able to come on board, you begin to deal with all these issues. And of course, we know demography is very useful. Based on the surveys, it was clear that was the way to go. And how do we reach this demography? It's through the mobile phone. And how do you get them through the mobile phone? Take banking services to them on the mobile phone. And that was the beginning of ALAT, the story of ALAT. We then latched on the industry initiatives around BVN. BVN had just been launched at that time. Everybody had to have a BVN to have a banking account. Then we thought about it. Oh, okay. With that, we should be able to recognize the customer. Talking about KYC, which was very important. And we put heads together, and we put a project together. We engaged consulting firm. In fact, the consulting firm we engaged, it was surprising for them that this was coming from Africa. Before Iman died, before the global CEO retired, he came to Nigeria, come to our digital lab to actually see for himself that this is what is happening, because he was always seeing this on their radar out there in the UK. So was an interesting time. The board was very supportive. We had to ensure that the board was on board as well. Of course, you have to collaborate in a digital system, an ecosystem. You need to work with people. You need to do KYC. You need to deliver cards. We had the courier companies had to deliver cards because we made promises which we had to meet. So we had to have our systems connected. That was the beginning of putting everything together. So we launched May 2017, and ever since then, it's been a roller coaster in terms of improvements as we speak. Even up to last week, I think another innovation came out trying to appeal to teenagers, on the. So really, and of course, a lot of awards. It got to a point that I actually told my folks that we don't need awards anymore. All we need now is to build the balance sheet and the bottom line, and all that. But it did something for us, which was it created the visibility, created the kind of bank that we really wanted. There's no amount of marketing costs spent that you make that would actually be able to deal with that. So that was. So next slide quickly. The other key lesson here is around adopting the growth and change mindset. I told you about the way I moved from IT to finance. I had to sit for the ICANN exam. Of course, at the point where I was preparing for leadership at Wema Bank, I went for a program at Harvard, and all that. So you have to constantly keep training and engaging yourself. And that is it. At the point I was retiring as well, so I also went for a program at Cambridge, with life after retirement, life in retirement. So basically all these things very important for us. We have to have that mindset in anything that we're doing. That change mindset must be there. How do I improve? How do I move on to the next? Let's move on to the next slide. Next slide talks about resilience. in turbulent times. I talked about our experience running Wema Bank, moving from negative 45 billion after the first audit that we did when we got into Wema to become a proper bank. Today, of course, the race towards 200 billion is there. The bank is already above the 100 billion as we speak today. Um, of course, during that period of a lot of issues, um, old Yoruba Bank and all that, a lot of deep-rooted issues, warfare, past MDs at camps, and these camps were taking on themselves and all that. So some of the things that we did were quite, we'll say wisdom, of God. It got to a point the camps were trying to use us as pawn to fight themselves, So what we did was we set up a structure, where the disciplinary committee. A camp will say, oh, there's a fraud here. Another camp will say, oh, another fraud is here. So we set up a disciplinary committee, and I was the head of, fortunately, but I had to do the job. And we were dealing with all the issues dispassionately. And one of the things we also, the unions was highly unionated. Our union leader at that time is actually in front of me here. They took us on headlong. Wasn't actually was but I would say we thank they took us on headlong. Wasn't it was but I would say we thank God they were brought into it. We showed them the books, we showed them the way it was, that we needed to take action, we needed to let people go. Otherwise, we would not have a bank. All of us would go home, and all that. There was no capital, and all that. I got to a point, even the consultants we took at some point, the day we engaged the union, we just discovered that they got into another room and they started praying. So it was, it was that intense at that point in time, but we will say that God gave us, we're able to all resolve amicably.
Can you give to those that are at the crossroad right now in their career, and the professional space, and they're thinking, how am I supposed to take this step? What do I do? What if I? Because I was talking to someone some time ago, and he was telling me that at a stage in his career, he made a mistake moving to a particular bank, and that he regrets it till today. So, what advice can?
Well, I was making a success of it is not also because I knew, because I said it there that you can only reflect backwards. You probably can't know what will happen in the future, but with guidance from God, it's important that, and then also there's always this thing that is very important. You must, whatever you are going into or whatever you want to lay your hands on, you must have peace of mind. If you don't have peace of mind, then there's something not. And why am I saying this? When I decided that I was going to retire, by the way, I still had about 3 years to go before I'm 60. 60 was our retirement age in Wema. I'm 58 tomorrow, actually, coincidentally. so, so, so I, by 2022, my mind was always when I started thinking about it and then started jotting down. Now, during the transformation, way back 2009, I had a jotter that I kept, which I was using to note the number of the things that we're doing, the milestones were, the actions and the milestones we're achieving, But of course, I wasn't so disciplined. After a while, I jettisoned it, but the pressure was too much. But then I took a decision then that someday I'm going to sit down and try to write, which I'm glad I was able to do last year. So really, I think anybody reading the story of the transformation will be able to appreciate and maybe take their own personal decision on how to go about it. Thank you.
Okay, there's a comment here online. It says, Ademola is a God-sent solution provider. I have known him from chartered bank days, and I can testify that his Midas touch is divine. Well done, brother Ademola. Keep on shining.
Okay, and I'm rounding up. And John Maxwell says leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. So we can see that, I'm not sure they can pick that.